A routine, guys?
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen. Our chairman of our law committee said that this was also approved 2-0 by the law committee. The next item is PS1 for parking services. It's $1 million release of conditions, and this is a release of the second half of the parking services budget. We met with parking services at our budget meetings, budget department meetings on day 2, and they updated us on the department for what was happening in this fiscal year and next year. So are we ready to have a motion to release the conditions on the second half?
I'll make the motion to release the conditions on $1 million of the parking services budget.
And I'll second.
Motion made by Ms. Moriarty, seconded by Ms. Aurora. And those in favor?
Aye.
So that condition is released.
Also routine, sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we do, it's a recommendation to release conditions, so, okay, routine, recommendation as routine. And that was 400. Great, so we already are moving to new business.
I would like to make a motion to add 2 additional items to our agenda. The first would be a request from the Board of Education for a headcount adjustment. And the second would be a request from Nathaniel Witherell also for a headcount adjustment.
Okay, is there a second for that motion?
I can.
Okay,
Sorry, you're looking at me.
well, I was just looking for a second. So those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 400. Nisha, you in? Yeah. 400. Okay, so I was going to start with, in this new business section, with our economic report, economic conditions report. To the economic conditions report, so, I mean, to the new business, so it will be coming in order. Or it has to be first?
No, it doesn't have to be first, but Dr. Budd is here.
But he might be interested in what's going on across our town departments, too.
He's been here for a long time.
Okay. Oh, have you been waiting the whole time? Dr. Budd, would you please come up and explain what you'd like to do? I'm sorry, I just thought you would be interested in the rest of our town departments. You're welcome to stay afterwards for the rest.
I will stay after just because I have a better printed version of this. This comes from the HR committee meeting this morning. But I included the format. This is a, wait, Thank you for having me on behalf of the Board of Education and the superintendent. This is a requested headcount adjustment, but it's a requested adjustment downward from 1.4 total FTE to 1.0. Essentially, there are 2 part-time positions in the Board of Education Human Resources Department. They are bilingual customer service representative. One is currently vacant due to a promotion earlier this year. Those positions currently work a total of 25 hours each for 50 hours. And our judgment is that the department would be served much more effectively, and we are likely to have much more competent personnel to have a 1 full-time position. So even though, as you see on here, that decreases the total hours allocated to this from 50 hours total weekly to 35 hours weekly. In fact, the current model of 2 part-time positions means that we have to have, from a very shallow pool in the workforce, people doing vital, confidential human resources work. And just in outline, as we discussed at the HR committee this morning, these positions are the ones that you see at the front desk if you come to Havemeyer, which I encourage you to. So they have that security and building entry function. They also are responsible for our compliance with Connecticut Public Act 1765. Every employee we hire who has direct student contact, which which is basically everybody, we have to contact every employer they've had in the past where they might have worked with children and have them fill out a state-authorized form within 5 business days of hire attesting to their moral character, et cetera. And we also have to process those forms for any of our former employees that get hired by school boards in the state of Connecticut. There's a significant, very important compliance part of that. Finally, there's a bilingual requirement for this job because of the adult education piece and adults and children coming in, frankly, all day long. And that bilingual piece, when we talk to Mary Pepe in the town, makes it even less likely that we're going to be able to fill our vacancy with a qualified part-time person. So if the full-time individual were to take the family benefits, that would be a net cost to the overall town of Greenwich of slightly over $2,000. But we feel it's well worth it. We can lead the department much better in this regard with a lower salary cost and the increased benefits cost potential. Be happy to answer any questions, but I come to you from a fresh HR meeting this morning.
Do we have any questions for Dr. Budd? Nisha?
Thank you, Dr. Budd. How is the role currently being filled? You said it was 2 part-time, so is it, was there a certain amount of overtime that was currently being done, and do you foresee any overtime in the?
We're lucky to have reassigned somebody to that job from another unit who required light-duty work and was unable to be in the schools as a result. So that person has been picking up the non-confidential piece of the role, but we anticipate that's going to end, and then we're going to be at the point of having to do overtime if we don't fill the second position.
So to be clear, they were only doing 40 hours of the customer or the front desk role in 10 hours or something else?
Yes, because there were other restrictions to the person doing the light-duty work as well, so a reduced schedule was also happening.
And then one more question. You said children and adults also come in to Havemeyer. I've been in the building quite a few number of times now for building committee meetings. When are there children in the building?
Well, not school-age children, but sometimes children of all types, but including Spanish-speaking children, come with their families during the day. So we sometimes see that because we teach the ELL classes during the day, and sometimes they bring as young as babies and infants.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Laura?
So I just want to be sure I understand the position. So this is the person at the front desk at Havemeyer?
Yes, and they're assigned to the HR department.
Okay, thank you.
And I just
Leslie?
would like to add at the HR committee, one, Mary Pepe confirmed or indicated that her experience with other departments as well, that it's typically easier and more effective for the department to have one full-time than it is to have 2 part-time people serving that role because of the inconsistency in the person handling it and often their attendance. And that the vote at the HR committee was 4-0 in support of the change.
I was going to add that also that, if this is passed by this committee, that then we'll need the updated pages for the fiscal '24 budget as it relates to the TOO and whatever, so that we have that in order, and it'd be better if it came from you than if we produced it, so it would be great. But clearly, yes, the HR committee, where Mary Pepe was present this morning, voted 4-0-0 on this.
So can I make a motion? I'll make the motion to approve the TOO change for the Board of Education and to have it be routine for the Board of Ed? For the BET meeting, sorry.
Is there anyone? You're not the only one making that mistake. Didn't Laura make a mistake?
Talking about
Is there a
Board of Ed.
second for this motion?
Yeah, I'll second it.
So,
I'm not sure it should be routine, though. I don't know if what you all think if,
My rationale there was just that our committee's hearing it and the full HR committee heard it, and the 3 other members who are not on either of the committee were in attendance at those meetings, so that the issues were presented and discussed. But if you or Dan feels differently, it can certainly be made on routine.
I don't have strong feelings, but I did have some questions I got some of them answered today. But I always think whenever you're shifting from when you're adding a full-time employee, just want to make sure we're thinking through, all of the points. And I know we had a little discussion right now, but I just got this about an hour ago and half an hour ago. So I just want to make sure nothing gets missed. So if there's an opportunity to ask another question at the full BET meeting, I'd like that opportunity. But generally, I don't see any issue with it. I just think it's the timing of it. But if you all feel strongly that it should be routine, I'm okay with that. I'll leave it to you to decide.
Given that this was really an item that came out of the HR committee, and it was a unanimous vote after a good discussion with Dr. Budd, I would support this being routine. But again, both, our chair has the opportunity to make it non-routine on the full BET agenda, and also any BET member can ask, even if it's on the agenda for the full BET as a routine item, that they have additional comment and they would like that to be removed. So there's two additional opportunities here, but I would support this as a routine item.
Okay, I've already seconded it, so that's good.
Okay, good. So thank you, and it's good to have these conversations also. So just let me, now that Nisha's confirmed she's seconding, I just want to, before I forget.
Sorry, before the vote, can I just ask a clarifying question? And sorry, I'm looking up the resolutions. So we're actually, the motion is to approve the change in the TOO, and that's what the
Well, it's
HR committee approved this morning, as opposed to the increase, the slight increase in the cost of the town of Greenwich? I'm just trying to make sure we're
They,
following the resolutions.
they addressed the move from the two part-time people to the one full-time person, so moving from FTE to full-time employees. And the form is, the purpose is obviously to outline the cost. So they, in their approval, they were approving the cost, in this case, reduction.
To be fair, we should ask the cost that, can the town's benefits line in the 900s accommodate potentially $30,000 more of expense this year? It actually would be part of the year, so it's a smaller number, much smaller number. But that's not an issue. So I think the answer is budgetary change for fiscal '23 doesn't require an approval, and fiscal '24 is yet to be voted on.
Right, well, I mean, depending on how this goes for the rest of the process, it would be helpful for Dr. Budd to make that change for our fiscal '24 budget, only because, we're in that seasonal process right now, and it just would be, helpful. At another time of year, it would just be, we wouldn't worry about that.
Dan had a
I know Dan has, I just want to make sure, wait a second, you okay with this now? Or no?
Yeah, I guess my question is really, is this something we need to act on? Is this something that somewhere it says we need to act on the change in the Board of Ed's table of organization? I'm just trying to find the source document.
Yes, this is this is both a budget resolution that the HR committee was acting on. So this is the form that's
That's
being
what
used, and this form then, the process that was established was, once this form was prepared and approved, it would go through the budget committee and the BET. I did ask for something additional, which was unrelated to this, maybe I should have said, is that we just get this adjustment in their own paperwork for our BET meeting, but that's separate. Is that okay? Are you okay with that now?
I guess I'm having trouble finding the budget resolution. If someone could help me, that would be great.
So your question is, because it's whether Board of Ed staff is subject to that resolution on staffing changes?
It is.
In the non-certified area?
I mean, this has been an ongoing discussion, so I appreciate the collaboration. I'm just trying to, and I have no problem with the change. I'm just trying to figure out if this is something we
Yes.
actually need to act on. I'm just trying to find,
Yes, but, you can
So
make
help
that
me out.
decision too. I'm going to,
If you're looking at the PDF of last year's budget, it's page 34.
page 34. I don't know about
Maybe,
last year's.
maybe 33. In hard copy, it's one or two pages off. On the PDF, it's 34.
and the resolution?
Under resolution. It's resolutions, yep.
Additional provisions. It's under the additional provisions. It's right near the end. And it is, any reorganization of a, is this Leslie? I would say, under the whereases, any reorganization of a department, i.e. resulting in an increase to the town's pension obligations or contributions to any deferred compensation savings plan by the town that will result in an additional financial commitment of the town may have an impact, and that requires, it goes on and on. You want to look at these? You don't want me to read them all?
It's fine, I'm
This is where.
Again, we just got this, so I'm trying to catch up.
And for the record, should I add, this is a GMEA position, so it's a represented Town of Greenwich employee working at the Board of Education, not instructional.
So it's the whereas D, is that right?
I'm sorry.
The whereas clause, letter D?
Well, it's also E, any reorganization of a department resulting in an increase to the town's pension obligations or contributions to any deferred compensation savings plan, because this will fall under, they're now going to go from a those benefits to having those benefits. Are you okay?
Yep.
Okay. So are people ready to vote
Yes.
on Leslie's motion? Those in favor?
Aye.
400. Thank you, Dr. Bud.
Well, I hope you'll have an upcoming meeting at the Havemeyer Building, and you can meet the person we hire for this full-time job in person. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. So we have another one, which Roland was going to present to us. Mr., I think, Roland, you are the proxy for Nathaniel Witherall in this case.
You need the mic.
So in this case, we now have 3 food service workers that are working for an outside company, and we're paying almost $35 an hour for them. So the total salaries come out to $190,000, almost $191,000. If we replace it with 3 full-time town employees, it drops the cost significantly, even with the benefits. So we save like $60,000. It also satisfies a grievance that was filed by the union saying that these are union positions and the work should not be outsourced. So this would do 2 things. One, it's cheaper, and one, it gets rid of the grievance saying that we're outsourcing union work from the town.
Does anyone, this also was approved by the HR committee by a vote of 400, and Larry Simon was there to present this to the HR committee. We're accelerating the process rather than having both Dr. Bud and the BOE wait until after our March series of meetings. Likewise, Nathaniel Witherall. So it was a suggestion, Ms. Moriarty suggested, that these be handled in today's meeting, which accelerates the process, and I'm certainly very supportive of that. So does anyone? Nisha?
I'm sorry, I wasn't at the HR committee meeting this morning. That's why my questions are coming up. Roland, I don't know if you'll know the answer to this, but I just wanted to understand, what is that, are these people that were in the kitchen, and what does the overall team look like? Is there still 3 or 4 others that are being outsourced, or is the entire team being
No,
outsourced?
there's no one being outsourced anymore.
So the entire team was 3 individuals in the kitchen, and
Right.
and these are those 3.
These are the 3 that the food service company was hiring, so it's going to replace them.
So the company will no longer be working for the Witherall.
No, I
Not
believe.
these 3 people.
No, I think, just to clarify, they have an outsourced food company that provides food services, but as I understand it, the company didn't provide enough employees, and so they hired these 3 Witherall employees, and they were paying them this kind of compensation. The cost was directly passed through to Nathaniel Witherall, and now these will be Nathaniel, 3 additional employees to Nathaniel Witherall, whereas before, these were employees of a food services company of unknown name at the moment, and, but at a higher compensation than they'll get as Witherall, but they will get the town benefits, health insurance, and
So it's the
defined
same-
contribution plan.
It's the same 3 people, they're just, instead of working for the food company, they're now working for Nathaniel Witherell?
This is the same 3 people, as I understand, now working for a food services company that will now be Nathaniel Witherall employees. Now, I will actually comment here that, I think, I won't be supporting this, because I think that Nathaniel Witherall should be looking at the overall costs and, their base of employees. And, if they had presented this as they needed these food services employees, but were willing to reduce headcount someplace else, or if they're willing to reduce perhaps the number of residents or something, because they're short anyway. There's some other things perhaps that could be done here to save costs. I'm not going to be a supporter of adding additional town employees at Nathaniel Witherall at this point in time.
And thank you for sharing that, Leslie, since I hadn't, I just, honestly, I'm just seeing some of this stuff a few minutes ago. The 3 individuals, if we do not hire them as full-time employees, do we still have the food service company? And are there still individuals that are going to be performing this task? Are we left with no?
It's my understanding, it's my understanding that they will still be there because Witherall believes they need these employees, otherwise they wouldn't be hiring them directly. They'd just be paying, a marginal additional amount of money for the 3 employees.
Got it.
Laura? And, excuse me, Roland, just, if that isn't correct, then just, correct, because Larry didn't address that question, I'm answering it. Is that correct?
When I was there, what I heard was, we have 3 people that we're paying for food service company that are paying a lot more money than we would have.
Right.
And even with the benefits, it's still cheaper to hire 3 people. And it also gets rid of a grievance that the union filed saying that we were outsourcing union work to a third party.
Was Larry Simon there or somebody from the Nathaniel Witherell there this
Larry
morning?
Simon was there this morning.
Did we ask them to come to our meeting, or?
Well, Larry Simon, I believe, is tomorrow the day. So,
Okay.
You'll have an opportunity to, ask additional questions at tomorrow afternoon's meeting on this subject as well as many other subjects.
Got it. Thank you, Lynn.
And Laura had her hand up next.
So I too, I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend the Human Resources meeting this morning, but I do have some questions on this. And Roland, I don't know if you can answer this. So in the TOO, there's 6 full-time equivalent food service workers for Nathaniel Witherall, and I believe there's some part-time positions.
There are some, yes.
So do you know if we're increasing the TOO from 6 to 9?
Yes, we are.
Okay, and so my
But
question.
we're not moving any of the part-timers into the full-time. We're adding to the full-time.
We're adding 6, okay, so here's my question, and I understand the economics and why this makes sense, but we have a food outsourcing arrangement. My understanding is we rebid it some months ago. The first vendor didn't work out, so we're in the process of migrating to the second person on the list who responded to the RFP. I guess I just don't know what the scope of that contract is. When I hear outsourcing, I believe we're still paying for the cost of the food, and we're still paying for the employees. So I think what we're paying for is maybe a chef and kitchen management and scheduling. I'm not really sure. So I guess my question that I'd like to have answered is, what is the scope of that food outsourcing contract? And, so I guess I'm not going to say I'm not going to support it, I just have more questions.
Well, I guess the next question is there a motion on the table to approve this?
Let me just add a little information, and maybe Harry can also add, because he was a voting member of the HR committee this morning. But as my understanding is that these three positions were on the TOO when Nathaniel Witherell cut, I believe, about 10 or so full-time positions when Mr. Mastronardi started. He cut these three positions. They deliver food to the residents. That's out of the scope of the current contract. And the kitchen was unable to keep up with the work level, so it was outsourced. But the outsourcing, one, is expensive, and two, it's not consistent in the sense that they don't always have these people appear to perform their jobs. And so they wanted to take it back in-house where they'll save money and get better efficiency. And I'll just look to Harry to confirm that that's your understanding from this morning's meeting as well.
That's my understanding, but it's also as a result of a union grievance.
Right. So again,
Don't approve this, not
We're not, in-
agreement with the union.
but again, as I stated, Nathaniel Witherell has, 148 full-time employees, and another alternative would be to, for some way, or to consider other alternatives and substitute these three employees for other employees. That's not my job. Someone else's job.
Can I ask a question on just background? And I'm sorry, I don't know labor law as well, but I see you have Mike here too. How does it work in terms of if the union has a grievance that's filed and it's not addressed, is there a liability that the town present, like what's the practical implication of a grievance? Is it just a, pat on the wrist, or is there
Well, usually there's a settlement and,
may or may not, or how do these usually play out?
there's usually some accommodation on one side or the other to figure out how to get through to comply with the contract and yet still get the performance that we need. So often, it could be that these three people would have to become employees, or it could be the union allows them to be outsourced, but they'll get something else in return. I don't believe the grievance process has developed to that far to get to settlement agreements. The issue's in discussion.
And when was the grievance filed for this particular, I don't know, Harry, if you know that? You said there was a grievance filed, is that recent, or has it been?
at this point in time, also, we have to be careful about what we talk. If
Okay.
you want to go into executive session, we could do that,
Nope,
too.
I don't need to go to executive session. Thank you.
I'm just looking to see, again, I don't know when these employees, which you said were,
I mean, I just went, now I'm looking in fiscal 19, which is the year before Mr. Mastronardi arrived, but I went back and looked at 2014, and there was 6 full-time Nathaniel Witherell food service workers under the old Morrison agreement. So I'm just trying to figure out what's driving the need for the additional 3 headcount. Again, I understand the economics. I don't want to mess with a grievance. I'm landing here a little uninformed, so that
Well-
I'm expressing my
what-
uninformedness, I guess.
I honestly, I don't, I'm looking here to see if there are any other changes that would impact that, and I don't see any others. So, is there anyone else? No.
The reason that we took this up today and not at next, because we obviously have the
This
opportunity.
can always be delayed until next month.
month.
There's absolutely,
Yeah, so we have opportunity to get our questions.
This came out of accommodating the BOE, okay, first, which, and then, this then followed after that, Nathaniel Witherell followed, and we're accommodating Nathaniel Witherell. Our normal process would be to do exactly as you say, give the normal amount of time to review, to have the representatives of, in this case, either Larry or John come and represent this. Larry said he couldn't come this afternoon, but we were accommodating them. Our normal process would be on next month's agenda. So we can always defer this until next month. And I also explained my position if, I'm not saying, anyway, I explained my position. So do I have a motion to,
Could we also, perhaps I think we have to schedule a special meeting in the next couple weeks or sometime prior to our next regular meeting. So if this item is ready, I'm happy to add that to our special meeting agenda if you're willing.
Yeah, it's a tight schedule, as long as it's sufficiently discussed prior to that time. Likely, we're going to have a special meeting on the morning of the 22nd, which is day 7, and we could add this, but if it looks like it's going to take substantial discussion, I would defer it until the March 9th meeting, just because I think that's going to be a tight schedule that day. So, but I'd take it into consideration if it looks like the questions are answered probably in tomorrow afternoon's meeting, tomorrow afternoon's meeting.
If I could make a comment and a suggestion. The way I heard it was, Larry said John Mastronardi cut 10 positions last year. He said he made a mistake, he cut too many. And what I heard was 3 of them were outsourced to this firm that I can't recall. And then they found out that they were still short 3 people of that
Right.
10 that they cut. And they took the 3 people and added them to outsourcing to this firm. The grievance was filed, and Tanisha's question, I don't know when it was filed, but it was discussed Monday in the HR department. My suggestion is you can get it all cleared up tomorrow afternoon.
Right, well, that's why I said we're going to meet with Larry tomorrow afternoon. But I'd just like to point out that the number of positions in our fiscal year 23 budget, the current year, are identical to the number of positions in the fiscal year 22 budget.
But we had a discussion this morning that the numbers in the budget are highly inaccurate. So.
Okay, so I think that thank you, I hear you, and tomorrow afternoon, hopefully we'll get a lot of clarifications on many numbers from Nathaniel Witherall.
So can we make a motion to defer this item rather than voting?
I don't think we need a motion to defer, I think we can just plain,
No motion's been made to approve.
Yeah.
And it
Okay.
doesn't make sense to vote, so.
Okay,
I
all
think
right, very
we'll-
good.
Is that all
The
right with
the
you?
only, for process-wise, if we're able to discuss this and raise this with Nathaniel Witherall tomorrow, perhaps we can add it to our special meeting on the 22nd, so it may still be acted on in the February BET meeting, if it's supported. Just to keep, because I don't know if we can, we
that's
can't
what I
vote,
thought- I
we
thought
can't
that's
vote
just what-
tomorrow.
I thought that's just what I said.
Okay. All right, then I'm just clarifying.
Thank you. Thank you for making it clearer. So I think at this point in time, then Roland, finally, we're going to get the report on the economic conditions report, please, Roland. You can update us. That would be great.
On our big 3 here, conveyance is slowing down. The January conveyance tax is the lowest in 2 years, so we do see that slowing down. Building permits is also slowing down, but it's ahead of where we've been for most of the years at this time. And of course, interest is way up. The rates and the tax collections in January resulted in one of the biggest months we've had in a long, long time.
I'm going to stop here just because, your comments on conveyance taxes slowing, and we currently have budgeted for this fiscal year $5,500,000, which I believe is the same number as we have budgeted for next year. Is that correct? For fiscal year '24?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about this tomorrow because Pete's going to have our presentations tomorrow. But I'm just highlighting it as we go through and look at the monthly numbers. In building permits, I believe we budgeted at $4,500,000, which looks like if we keep up this, at exactly the same level this month, we'll meet that budget this year. But it's my understanding that the First Selectman added another $500,000 into the revenue budget for fiscal year '24. So that's just something that we will need to talk about either, probably consolidation days, but just so that people can look at these numbers and keep that in mind. Okay, Roland.
On the rest of the revenues, we finally got caught up on the tax collections. So the tax collections are up $11.2 million over last year. And it's offset by 1.6 in conveyance tax, and that accounts for the bulk of the difference, the higher revenues this year compared to last year, which is 9 point.
So again, just commenting here, these taxes represent what happens in a revaluation year.
No,
No?
it's just, we tax for more revenue.
Okay.
Can I just clarify, the heading on the chart says it's December numbers. These are January numbers, right?
There was a substitute.
There was a substitute one.
Substitute.
Oh, yeah, there's a new
There was an email that came right before our meeting.
And on the expenses, we didn't get that adjustment of moving people from the general fund and the Board of Education to the grant funds. That was posted last week, so this doesn't reflect that yet. We moved over $1.2 million into the grant funds, so we'll see that in February.
Okay.
And the other increases, fire is overtime, which we've been talking about each month. Police is overtime for the schools.
Right.
And also, they had $300,000 of maintenance it was a new budget item in this fiscal year, and that accounts for most of the increases.
So, help me, Roland. I asked this question last month, and I noticed that, where are we here? You're not on the page yet that I need to be on. No, I'm here with Roland, but I have a question. It's in an upcoming page.
He just did expenses, so there's no more pages.
Oh, Roland. Then I'm going to the very last page of expenses, this page, which I didn't know. Sometimes he does it by department too. So last month I asked the question about the senior center and the Commission on Aging. And noticed how on a combined basis they were missing they were spending so much more money. And this year, I know, this month it continues, so it's 112,000.
Right, I sent out the
And
explanation.
what was the
explanation was that last year, they only had, it was a pickup lunch or meal, and they only were doing it once a week, and now they're doing it twice a week. So the
Really?
food service is twice.
And not only that, it isn't just the pickup lunch, it's the fact that you only have to be, 50 or 55 now, they lowered the age.
Yes.
Think about this, guys, we all can go to lunch for cheaper.
discussion.
Well, no, I was trying to remember what it was for tomorrow. Okay, so Roland, anything else you want to talk to us?
I think that's it.
Okay. So I'll just, one other comment, this happens some months, the CPI per the Bureau of Labor Statistics came out for our area yesterday, and prices were up 0.8% over month, and 6.0% year over year. Those are the inflation numbers, so just keeping us current about what's happening in our area, but beyond our own community. So now we will move back and talk about the budget resolutions, department reports. And so for the first time ever, we have a wonderful report put together by the Finance Department, and Adam Ross put this together. And what it is all of the budget resolutions, and these are the annual disclosure reports required by our budget resolutions. And this is a review. It lists each and every one of them. And then the details, Adam has gone and talked to each and every department where we have a budget, and all of the details are attached to this report. So I think this is the first time that I'm aware of, that we've looked at our process in terms of these budget resolutions. And so I think this is a wonderful review, and I would recommend that this be done annually. Do we have any comments on anything here? I guess I would like a couple modifications to it. It would be nice if we could like put it into exactly as it is, but into an Excel spreadsheet so that, it becomes like a tickler file that we can do it in the future. And then I would also add, and this is kind of shaky because it changes every single year, but perhaps just the number of the budget resolution, just so that, people are looking there now. Now, that may change in the next few weeks, but anyway, I think this is great.
This is, more information we've got in the past, but some of the information is fiscal year '22, and some is calendar year '22, and some is anticipating fiscal '23. So we can work on making sure the data, I would assume it should be on a fiscal year basis is what we're looking, and we're looking for the report. Well, it could be calendar year, but.
It could be
should
calendar
be
year, because then
consistent.
it would, if it's calendar year, then it would, and I agree with what you're saying. If it was calendar year, then it would be available for review when the Budget Committee is reviewing its budget, and also when the Law Committee is reviewing the budget resolutions to be inserted into the budget package that goes to the RTM. So there are things, like we asked yesterday about the report for Parks and Rec, the trees department, and that also requires that we get I think a list of the trees, more information. So, some of these, if they are getting extra money, like that one, I believe it needs to be appropriated, but maybe, so if it's trees and they're in kind, that's one thing. But I think this is, again, to me, this is just super, because, we just haven't gone back and looked, other than the trees report, which we have been getting, I don't think we've gone back and looked at what's required, and so this is a good first step.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is wonderful.
So I would agree, and I applaud Adam, Roland, whoever got this information. That, again, we've been pretty busy, so I haven't gone through all these detailed backups. I guess my question is, and I'd like to have a little more time, is does this information tell us that maybe we don't need all these reports, perhaps? Are there some we could do without? I'm looking specifically on the Public Works special events, and I've just landed on it because what this is additional labor costs to do an inspection outside of normal business hours. I mean, do we need to know that for $9,000?
I think that, that this gives the great, lead into every single person on this board should be reading all the budget resolutions. And if they have suggestions on the budget resolutions, they should be contacting the Law Committee, which reviews them every single year. And so if we have suggestions, and I think we've talked about this before, we should let the Law Committee know what these suggestions are.
That's a very good suggestion. I will do that.
But again, thank you to Roland and to Adam, and, I think this is great. I guess other than the next step is our Budget Committee meeting minutes. Do we have any motions to approve those? Or?
I'm happy to make
Individual?
one motion to approve them all unless people want to take them up separately.
Does anyone want to approve these separately? Okay, so I'll take a motion to approve them all. I mean, each and every one individually.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of January 18th, the public hearing on January 24th, budget hearings day 1 on January 31st, and budget hearings day 2 on February 2nd, as amended and has previously been circulated to the Budget Committee members.
And I'll second.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Nisha?
I think they all had slight amendments.
Yeah.
So just as amended, yeah.
Well, two of them have been posted with all the amendments, and the last two weren't posted without the
So
amendments.
then I'll change the motion to as amended for January 31st and February 2nd.
And everyone's satisfied with that particular? Okay, so, and we voted 400, right? Or, correct? Yes. Okay, so I think this leads into, we currently have scheduled meeting for Thursday, March 9th, and I guess I'll send around an email, make sure, confirm that date or not. And then we meet tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for day number 6 of the department meetings. And that will be a very busy day. But the good news is we have our own department people presenting in the morning. We have Pete Minarski and Roland will be involved, and we have Lauren Elliott, our town assessor. And so there will be a lot of information that will be very helpful as we begin to formulate our budget during consolidation days and decision days. So this is good. But we also will be hearing from outside departments. So we hear from the Bruce Museum, the Senior Center Commission on Aging, and also Nathaniel Witherall, as we talked about earlier. So, do we have a motion to adjourn at 1:48?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
So, motion made by Ms. Moriarty and seconded by Nisha Arora, and those in favor? I guess that's a 400. Thank you.